Good evening, folks. It's your bro, Richie Richer. Good evening, folks. Good evening, folks. It's your bro, Richie Richer. Um, tonight in this video, I'm back with another explanation video for y'all. Sorry. So, still a little bit ill, but I'll be fine. Um, man. All right. So, all right. So, I'm back. Um, yeah. Tonight in this video, I'm back. So tonight in this video, I'll be talking to you about the next engine actually. So tonight in this video, I'm still doing engines, and tonight in this video, I'll be talking to you about the next engine, which is the GM LS motor. So that's right, I'm doing officially a Chevy motor. So the mighty Chevy LS. So this is gonna be pretty fun considering this is another engine that I wanted to do for such a long time. And now, finally, I've got the chance to do it. So, before I start, make sure you guys all like the video, subscribe, comment down below what you guys think, hit the notification bell, and hit all so you know when I make pretty uploads. Sorry if I'm not sounding properly, it's just because I'm still ill. This cold is just killing me right now, but I'm trying to fight as much as I can. But yeah, I took medicine tonight. I took medicine like I took medicine at least like less than an hour, like 2 hours ago. But I'm not sure how that's gonna improve. I'm not sure how that's gonna improve, but we'll see what I can do. Yep. Back to my original setup. So it's been a while since I had like this kind of setup before. The last time you saw it was I think it was before or after I got home from vacation. I'm not too sure actually. It was before I started like this this Princess Trust charity foundation, whatever it is, which I'm still doing. So far everything's been going good. So a lot of wondering what I'm drinking. This is just green water, San Celestino. San Celestino. It's basically a frizzante, which is a sparkling carbonated natural spring water. So it's pretty cool. There we go. Alright, so with that being said, let's get started. Let's get started with tonight's video. So tonight in this video, I'll be talking to you about the next motor, which is the General Motors, or GM for short. So GM for short. LS based small block motor. So this is basically the Chevy motors that is used mostly in Camaros and Corvettes. And after that, I'll be doing one more engine, and then after that, I'll be moving on to the next topic, which you guys are gonna like this one, but I'm not gonna tell you just yet. But after I finish off all three motors, well, I've done one. I just gotta finish the other two. I'll tell you the next part what I'm doing, because this is gonna be pretty fun for all of you gaming fans out there. But you'll see very soon as much as possible. I'll try to do as much as I can. Let's do it. So today in this video, I'll be talking to you about the General Motors LS-based small block motor. So this is the Chevy motors that's used mostly in like Camaros, that's used usually mostly in so tonight I'll be talking to you about the General Motors LS-based small block motor. So this is one of these Chevy LS motors that's usually used mostly both in both Camaros and Corvettes. So this is gonna be pretty cool. Alright, so before I start, make sure you guys all like the video, subscribe, Comment down below what you guys think. Hit the notification bell and hit all so you literally don't make brain uploads. So hit all so you literally don't make so hit all so you literally don't make brain uploads. Alright, so without any further ado, let's begin. So the General so the General Motors LS based small block engine or motor, whatever you want to call it. Alright, so the General Motors or GM LS based small block motors are a family. So the GM LS based, small block, so the GM LS based small block, excuse me. So the GM LS based, small block, so the GM, GM LS based, small block motors are a family of both V8, and offshoot V6 and so family of both V8 and offshoot V6 motors. Sorry, both designed and manufactured by the American automotive company GM or General Motors. Introduced in 1997, the family is a introduced in 1997. The family is a continuation. Introduced in 1997. So introduced in 1997, the family is a continuation. Alright. Introduced in 1997, the family is a continuation of the earlier first. So introduced in 1997, the family is a continuation. So introduced in 1997, the family is a continuation of the earlier both Gen 1 and Gen 2 Chevy small block motors, of which over 100 million have been produced, and is also considered one of the most popular V8 motors ever. Kind of true. I like LS motors, pretty good. The LS family spend the LS families the LS family spans the third, fourth, so third, fourth, and fifth gens of the small block. So the third, fourth, and spans the Gen 3, 4, and 5 of the small block. So Gen 3, 4, and 5 of the small block V8s, with a Gen 6 expected to enter production soon. Which has been around for like a while now. But over half a decade almost. So the LS family spans the third, fourth, and fifth gens of the small block motors, with a Gen 6 expected to enter productions with a Gen 6 expected to enter with a Gen 6 expected with a Gen 6 expected to enter production soon. Various small block V8s various small block V8s various small block V8s were and still are available as crate motors. Alright, next, let's do it. So, manufacturers by obviously GM, General Motors. Designers are both Tom Stevens and and Ed Koerner. I can't pronounce his last name correctly, but it's spelled Koerner. Production was from 1997 and onwards. Layout was layouts next. Configuration is both a 90-degree configurations for a V8 and a V6, both with an angle of up to 90 degrees. Say 90 degrees. So it's half of 180 degrees. So if you do 180 divided 2, you get 90 degrees. Displacements were up from 4.8 to 8.4 liters. Cylinder bores were around 96 to 106 point, so 96 to 106.3 millimeters. So 3.78 to 4.185. Level less than 3.8 to 4.2 inches roughly. Piston stroke is between 83.8 to 104.8, well, roughly 84 to 105 millimeters, 3.3 to 3.3 to 4.125 inches. So, wait, hold on. So displacement was between 4.8 to 8.4 liters. Cylinder bore was between 96 to 106.3 millimeters, 3.78 to 4.185, well, 3.8 to 4.2 inches roughly for cylinder bore. Piston stroke, so piston stroke was roughly around 83.8 to 104.8, well, roughly 84 to 105 inches, no, sorry, 84 to 105 millimeters, 3.3 to 4.125 inches. In piston stroke, the cylinder block material was both aluminum and cast iron, and same with the cylinder head material, both aluminum and cast iron. Valve train was a 16 valve overhead valve, two valves per cylinder. Compression ratio was between 9.08 to 1 to 13.1 to 1. Combustion fuel system was both so fuel system was both fuel injection and carburetors. Fuel type was either gasoline or E85. Oil system was either a wet or a dry sump. Cooling oil system was either a wet or dry sump. Cooling system was water cooled, not the usual air cooled and whatnot, but it's just water cooled. Next up we got is output. Power output is usually roughly between 255 to a colossal 755 horsepower. Torque output was roughly between 280. Torque output was roughly between 285 to 715 pound-feet. That's 386, well, 390 to 969, well, 970 newton meters of torque. Dimensions is next. Not much harder, just a weight between 402 to 4 between 402 to 400, so between 402 to 464 pounds. That is 182 to 210 kilos. So it's a 62 pound, so it's a 62 pound, 28 kilo difference there. Chronology is next. The predecessor was the Chevy small block motor, both used in the Gen 1 and Gen 2 Chevys. Both first and second gen, so both Gen 1 and Gen 2. The successor was the Chevy Gemini small block motor. So, alright, so where's that? So GM LS based small block motors are a family of V8 and offshoot V8 and offshoot V6, V8 and offshoot V6 motors, both designed and manufactured by the American automotive company GM. Introduced in 1997, the family is a continuation of the earlier. So introduced in 1997, the family is a continuation of the earlier Gen 1 and Gen 2 Chevy small block motors, of which over 100 million have been produced. and is also considered one of the most popular V8s ever made. So one of the most popular V8 motors ever. The most popular V8 motors ever. The LS family spans the Gen 3, 4, and 5 of these small block motors, with a Gen 6 expected to enter production soon. Various small block V8s were and still are available as crate motors. uh, yeah, I think I'm back. Just gonna go quick drink. Can't really talk properly. I'm back real quick. Alright, back. 50%, not too bad. I just took cough syrup as well. And so, just to help try it and kill this cold, which is gonna take a while. Which is gonna take a while, but I'll try and just try to as much as I can. Alright, so where was I? So various small block V8s were and still are available as crate. So various small block V8s were and still are available as crate motors. Alright, right part. So the LS nomenclature or LS nickname, as some people would call it, originally came from the RPO, or regular production option, code code LS1 LS1, assigned to the first motor in the assigned to the first motor in the Gen 3 motor series. The LS nicknames since the LS nickname has since been the LS nickname has since been used to refer generally to all so gen the LS nickname has since been used to refer generally to all Gen 3 and 4 motors, but that practice can be misleading. But that pra- but that practice but that practice can be misleading, since not all engine RPL codes in those generations begin with LS. Likewise, although Gen 5 motors are generally referred to as LT small blocks, LT small blocks after the RPO LT1 Gen 1, so the first version. GM also used other two-letter RPO codes in the Gen 5 series. The LS ones first fitted in the C5 Corvette. So in the Chevy Corvette C5, and either LS or LT motors have so either LS or LT motors have powered every gen have powered every generation of the Corvette since, with the exception of the of both the Zeo of both these of both the of both the Zeo of both the Zeo 6 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 and Zero 1 variants of the Gen 8 Corvette. So the latest one, the C8 Corvette, which are powered by the unrelated uh, Chevy Gemini small block motor. Various other GM cars have been powered by both. Excuse me. Various other GM cars have been powered by both LS and LT based motors, including sports cars, well, muscle cars, such as both the Chevy Camaro and Pontiac Firebird, and even the Holden Commodore. Trucks such as the Chevy Silverado, and SUVs such as the Cadillac Escalade. A clean sheet design. The only shared components between the Gen 3 motors and the first two generations, so the Gen 1 and Gen 2 of the and the first two generations, so both the Gen 1 and Gen 2 of the Chevy small block motor are both the connecting rod bearings, which is short for so conrod is short for connecting rod. So conrod so connecting rod both connecting rod bearings so connecting rod bearings connecting rod bearings and valve lifters. However, both the Gen 3 and 4 motors were designed with modularity in mind, and several motors of the two generations shared a large number of interchangeable parts. Gen 5 motors, on the other hand, don't share as much with the previous two, although the although the motor blocks carried over, along with the connecting rods for the pistons. Both the serviceability and parts availability for various Gen 3 and 4 motors have made them a popular choice for motor swaps in both the car enthusiasts in both the car enthusiasts and hot rod hot riding community. This is known colloquially as an LS swap. These motors also enjoy a high degree of aftermarket. These motors also enjoy a high degree of after. these motors also enjoy a, these motors also enjoy a high degree. Excuse me. These motors also enjoy a high degree of aftermarket support due to both their popularity and affordability as well. Alright, next up we got is the backgrounds, like the backstory almost of this. I might talk about hot rods one day. Never know. But we'll see how it goes. Anyways, next up, background. So, Ed Cole, the brainchild of Chevy chief engineer, uh, the Gen 1 small block, so the first generation of the So Gen 1 Chevy small block motors first unveiled in the 55 Corvette, so 1955 Corvette and Bel Air, both Chevy models, both powered by the 4.3 liter 265 265 turbofire V8. The 265 turbofire motor distinguished itself from other motors of the era, such as Caddies or Cadillacs, 331 series of the late 40s, of both the late 40s and early of both the late 40s and early 50s. Late 40s and early 50s by reducing both the size and weight of valve. What? God, it's ice cold. I can't believe it. Anyways, so where is that? Oh yeah, so the 265 turbofire motor so the 265 turbofire motor distinguished itself from other motors of the era, such as Cadillacs 330, or Caddies 331 series of the late 1940s and early 19 of the late 1940s and early 1950s by reducing both the size and weight of various components within the motor. A compact engine a compact engine block combined with a light valve train gave the turbofire so gave a compact engine block combined with a light valve train gave the turbofire a 40 gave the turbofire a 40 pound so 40 pound 18 kilo, almost 20 kilo weight reduction. It's not much on it, but at least it's good to have it a little bit lighter weight reduction compared to the inline sixes, despite having two more cylinders, obviously. that initially that initially powered the Gen 1 Corvette alongside a significant horsepower increase of 25%. This contributed to lowering the Corvette's 0 to 60 time from 11 this contributed to lowering This contributed to lowering the Corvette's 0 to 60 time, so 0 to 60 from 11 to 8.7 seconds. So it's 2.3 seconds faster. Nicknamed the Mighty Mouse. Nicknamed the Mighty Mouse. The Turbo Fire the Turbo Fire soon became popular popular within the hot rod community too, along with scoring wins in stock car racing. Scoring wins in stock car racing. A larger version of the Turbo Fire arrived in 1957. So a larger version of the Turbo Fire arrived in arrived in 1957. Now bored out now bored out to three now bored out to 98.4 millimeters, 3.875 inches. This gave the new engine a total displacement of 4.6 liters. This newer version was dubbed the Super Turbo Fire. The Super Turbo Fire is also the first motor also the first motor offered with mechanical fuel injection, or MCI for short, not the usual EFI or electronic fuel injection. The top of the line model produced the top of the line model produced 283 283 horsepower, giving it a 1-to-1 cubic inch to horsepower ratio. This lowered the Corvette's 0 to 60 to 7.2 seconds. GM would produce more powerful and larger displacements. GM would produce more powerful and larger displacement iteration. More powerful and larger displacement iterations of the small block, until stringent emission regulations in the late 60s. Until stringent stringent emissions stringent emission regulations in the late 60s severely limited performance. The Malaise era, roughly 1973 to 1983, as it was known, saw some of the lowest horsepower figures in several muscle and or pony car motors. Several muscle and or pony car motors. This include and several muscle and or pony car motors. Pony car motors. This included the Corvette, whose power output dropped below 200 horsepower, despite a displacement of 5.7 liters, 350 cubic inches. 1992 saw the Gen 2 Chevy small block hit the market in that year's Corvette in the form of the LT1 small block. It featured a new ignition system, reverse flow cooling the cylinder heads first, and a new motor block. and a new block. But both the valve train and engine mounts were carried over in order to maintain a degree of compatibility with the previous gen. Other mods, such as both a better both such as both other mods other mods other mods such as both a better flowing intake manifold and cylinder heads gave the LT1 a power output of 300 horsepower. 300 horsepower is pretty good. Not too bad. The Gen 2, on the other hand, culminated in the culminated in the LT4 small block, which gained a minor power increase of just 30 horsepower. 30 horsepower is not too bad. Pretty good. Other changes included both a lighter valve train and strengthened crankshaft. Strengthened crankshaft. The decision to stick with pushrod technology The decision to stick with pushrod technology, seen as archaic at the time, such motors were seen as outdated. Such motors were seen as outdated compared to the smaller capacity, but both more powerful and fuel efficient overhead cam overhead cam motor. So, so such motors were seen as outdated compared to the smaller capacity, but both more powerful and fuel efficient overhead cam motors favored by both European and Asian manufacturers. One of GM's domestic rivals, Ford, had announced plans to axe its small block motor from production in the early 90s in favor of in, in favor of its modular motors. Another domestic rival, Chrysler Corporation, had stopped building passenger cars with V8s years prior, relegating them to its both its tr- both to relegating them to both its trucks to both its trucks to both its trucks and SUVs. Many car enthusiasts also desired a DOHC motor. GM in response GM in response had GM in response had developed the North Star GM in response had developed the North Star motors for Cadillac, but those motors were initially exclusive to that brand and not originally designed for rear-wheel drive cars. So cars with rear-wheel drive weren't designed for that. Later on, later on, Sam Sam Weingarten Sam Weingarten so wine as you like drink so Weingarten Sam Weingarten, former GM executive former GM chief engineer for small blocks, stated that despite the stigma of the despite the stigma of the pushrod motor being a symbol of the uncompetitiveness or sake of the domestic industry, the decision to stick with pushrods were made on the basis that switching to overhead camshafts were unnecessary. The power the power requirements for the Corvette were satisfied by simply increasing motor displacement. Current GM chief engineer for small blocks. So Jake Lee, Jake Lee, current GM current GM current GM chief engineer. So current GM chief engineer for small blocks. So Jake Lee, Jake Lee current GM. So Jake Lee current GM. Uh, chief engineer for small blocks also sta- for small blocks also stated that switching to overhead camshafts would also increase the height of the motor by only 4 inches, rendering it too tall to fit rendering it too tall to fit under the hood of the Corvette. Approval for the Gen approval for the Gen 3s granted. So approval for the Gen 3 was granted. Approval for the Gen 3 was granted in May 1992. So like during the mid of the middle of mid 92. So during the very early 90s. So approval for the Gen 3s granted in May 1992 after a seat of the pants decision made by GM executives who went for a drive went for a drive in 2 Corvettes. So went for a drive went for a drive in 2 Corvettes. One equipped with a traditional pushrod motor and one with a new DOHC and one with a newer DOHC, so a dual overhead camshaft motor. Tom Stevens, then executive director of GM Powertrains, was the man in charge of the project. He had the task of he had the task of designing a motor that was not o- that wasn't o- that was not only more powerful than the previous small block iterations, but one that could also deliver both better fuel economy and meet emission standards. but one that could but one that but one that could also deliver both better fuel economy and meet emission standards. Works work so but one that could also deliver better both fuel economy and meet emission standards. Work started in 1993. So work began in 1983, shortly after the release of the LT1, shortly after the release of the LT1 uh, Gen 2 motor. A small team handpicked um, from the AE, so advanced, so a small team handpicked from the AE, advanced advanced engineering department of GM, was assembled to do much of the initial design work with initial prototypes with initial prototypes hitting test benches by the winter of 1983. Stevens also Tom also recruited Ed Koerner, last name is spelled Koe, so Koerner, a former NHRA a former NHRA record holder a former NHRA record holder to help with much of the hands-on work while Steven to help with much of the hands-on work while Stevens focused on project management while Stevens focused on project management issues. Okay, next up is designs. This is pretty interesting. All three generations of overhead valve. So all three gens of OHV motors, otherwise known as pushrod motors. Um, OHV motors have the valves. So OHV motors mounted have the valves mounted above the cylinder head with both a push rod and rocker arm, allowing a block mounted camshaft to activate the valves. The advantage the so the advantages of a motor configuration like this, as opposed to an OH as opposed to an overhead camshaft motor, is that since the camshaft's located within the motor valley, so within the engine valley, a pushrod motor will a pushrod motor will be shorter in height compared to an overhead cam motor. Another advantage is that there are fewer Another advantage is that there are fewer. Another advantage is that there are fewer. So another advantage is that there are fewer mechanical. There another advantage is that there are fewer mechanical components, such as both timing chains and extra camshafts, which increases reliability but keeps the engine simple. So which increases reliability but keeps the engine. So which increases reliability. So which increases reliability but keeping the motor simple. All three gens were outfitted with either aluminum. So all three gens were outfitted with either aluminum or cast iron blocks, with all passenger car blocks being aluminum, whereas truck blocks could be like any like either material, either aluminum or just cast iron simply. Every single motor is also fitted Every single motor is also fitted. So every single motor is also fitted with aluminum cylinder heads. Apart from the 1999 and 2000 model year of the LQ4 motor, which were cast iron. Other mods to the cylinder heads um, included a redesign to include significantly better airflow, which evenly spaced both the exhaust and intake valves. So they spaced them out. So they just spaced them out. So both the exhaust and intake valves. Basically, what they did is they just spaced them out technically. So both the exhaust and intake valves. A deeper motor skirt, so engine skirt, meant that both. So that meant that meant that both the meant that both the Gen 3 and following generations were slightly larger than its predecessors. The deeper skirts strengthened the both strengthened the motor block and improved rigidity. So it's like more sturdy, like more structured, more sturdy, like more stronger. So it's an improved rigidity. A deep motor skirt or a deep engine skirt refers to an engine block. So a deep engine skirt a deep engine skirt refers to an engine block which extends below the center line position of, which extends below the center line which extends below the center line position of the crankshaft within the motor. Another another feature across all gens was the 4.4 inch both bore spacing and push rods. The former of which is also in use in the Chevy Gemini small block motor. The use of aluminum allowed for further weight reduction. The 1987 LS1 so the 1987 LS1's almost 100 pounds, 45 kilos lighter, pretty good, than previous cast iron small block iterations. GM also made GM GM also made extensive use of economies of scale for the so GM also made extensive use of economies of sale from the LS. With the exception of both the 4.8 and 7 liter motors, all variants used the same 3.622 inch stroke, with more of those variants using the same basic crankshaft casting. So the same basic crankshaft casting. Both the 4.8 and 5.3 liter variants utilized the same motor block casting, and several variants use the same length connecting rod or con rod. Other mods include long runner, long runner intake manifolds, intake manifolds, powder forged connecting rods or powder forged con rods, so powder forged con rods, and the intro of 6 bolt main bearings, as opposed to either 2 or 4 of the previous gen. Long runner intake manifolds in the LS. Long runner intake manifolds in the LS. So long runner intake manifolds in the LS series. Long runner intake manifolds in the LS series increases the airflow into the cylinders out. Increases the airflow into the cylinders at low. So increases the airflow into the cylinders at low revolutions, so like low RPMs technically. Increasing torque production at also lower RPMs. truck truck applications, on the other hand, of the LS motor truck truck applications of the LS motor, meanwhile, have even longer intake manifolds, being approximately 3 inches taller than passenger car manifolds. Most mo- most motors were also fitted with hypertectic pistons, hypertectic pistons, replacing the previous cast iron pistons, which are both weaker and weaker and less thermally stable. Powder forging, meanwhile, involves sinter so powder forging involves sintering a specific mixture of metals, both metals and non-metals, which have been compressed in a forming press. The mixtures then quickly transferred into a traditional die cavity in a forging press, and is pressed and is pressed once then cooled. Powder forgings also powder forgings powder forging is also more cost effective. More cost effective compared to traditional die forging, reducing so to then compared to traditional die forging, reducing the amount of tooling required. So reducing the amount of tooling required. Reducing the amount of tooling required to trim inconsistencies. In hot forged connecting rods. Last part on the there for tonight. Stronger than the forged forged steel connecting rods. The previous two gens. Uh, powder forged connecting rods. Connecting rods have been fitted to every both LS and LT motor, apart from the LS7, which is a little bit different, but oh well, not gonna brag about that. Okay, so that's gonna be pretty much it for tonight. So for my next LS motor video will be about the gen. So for my next LS motor video will be about. So for my next LS motor video will be about the Gen 3 motor, from 1997 to 2007. From 97 to '07. So that's gonna be pretty cool. All right, so that's gonna be pretty much it. So if you guys like this video, subscribe, comment down below what you guys think, hit the notification bell, and hit all so that I don't make great uploads. All right, so that'll be it. I gotta go. I'll see you guys in the next video. But until then, I'll see you guys in the next video. But until then, stay safe. Have a great evening, or if it's morning, I'll just check the time real quick. 12:24 in the morning. You kidding me? All right. So that'll be it. I'll see you guys. So if you guys like this video, subscribe, comment down below what you guys think. Hit the notification bell and hit all so that I don't make pretty uploads. All right. So that'll be it. I gotta go. Gotta head to sleep. I'll see you guys in the next video. But until then, stay safe. Have a great morning, and also, excuse me, and also have a great day. Have a great day. And wish me luck to get better. I'll try as much as I can. And I'll see you guys in the next video. So, take care. Take care, folks. Take care. Take care, folks. Say, take care, folks. Stay safe out there. And I'll see you. So, take care, folks. Take care, folks. So, take care, folks. Stay safe out there. I'll see you guys soon. Bye bye.